I've been taking pictures for over 7 years now, and here are 5 habits that made me a better photographer, so you can just copy me. The first, and what I would probably say is one of the most important habits that you should have as a photographer or as a beginner, even if it's mobile photography. I started with mobile photography for like almost a year until I first got my digital camera, which was the Canon 1300D. That camera served me for a very long time, and I used it alongside the very cheap Yongnuo 50mm lens. This was my combo for like a good number of years. I took a lot of pictures. Every single week I was taking pictures. There were days where I had like 3 shoots in a day. I feel like this really contributed to my skills as a photographer because it made me an even better photographer. I got more used to shooting. I would take pictures all the time. I would practice more, and it also gives you the chance to make more mistakes. Because the more you take pictures, the more mistakes that you make, and the more you'll be able to correct them. Shooting frequently early enough doesn't just help you become a better photographer, but it also prepares you for client shoots. So when you're doing client shoots in the future, if you have made a particular mistake before when shooting photos for yourself, you're less likely to make these mistakes when taking pictures for your clients, because you do not want to shoot a client's wedding and then you end up taking pictures and they just get missing. Take pictures more frequently. And while doing this, number 2, try new techniques. There's so many techniques on the internet now that we have, like TikTok. There are lots of new techniques on Instagram. So following more photographers, looking at their work, and like thinking of the technique that they use, making the internet your best friend while at it as well. While you're taking pictures frequently, I would definitely urge you to try new techniques, something that I've never tried before with your camera. That's one thing that I'm grateful that I did a lot of while starting photography. I did a whole lot of things, like putting things in front of my camera, putting like Vaseline on my lens. I tried a whole lot of things when I first started photography because I had this curiosity in me. I really wanted to learn new techniques. It kind of helps you get yourself in different shooting situations. For example, you try taking photos at night. Taking photos at night gives you the opportunity to start playing with continuous lights or using the lights around you to take photos. Now, these don't just help you take more interesting photos. It, like I said with the first tip, it also prepares you for client photo shoots where you could find yourself in like very, very bad conditions. Let's say, for example, you're in a client shoot and you guys agree to meet by like 5 p.m. One thing leads to another. Maybe end up starting a shoot by like 8 p.m. when the sun is already down. And now in this case, if you have some experience taking a lot of pictures frequently and then trying new techniques while at it. Now, if you have done all of these and you have experimented with taking pictures in low light, if you're in a scenario like a client shoot and you have to take pictures in low light, you will be more familiar with how to deal with this situation because you know that you have been here before. And it's easier for you to decide what to do then. I personally found myself in situations where I had a client shoot. Maybe the client communicated something in a certain way, which made me feel like that might be the gear that I needed for the situation. Maybe the location might not be as well lit as I thought it was, or maybe everything just probably wasn't as right as I wanted it to be. Now, with that experience of trying new techniques and doing a lot of things, this would let me know how to compromise during a shoot. For example, if maybe talking to a client and you thought that you might only need a speed light for a shoot, and then you get to the shoot location and then you find out that, oh, maybe you might actually need more than one speed light. You might actually need a softbox or something. If you've had that experience with trying new techniques and trying new things, you will be able to use a speed light and a reflector for the shoot because you have been able to experiment with things like bouncing lights off of the reflector to create an interesting look for the image, or maybe things like using your diffuser if you're under harsh sunlight. So getting very, very familiar with this helps you more when it comes to very serious shoots. The third tip here that I think is very, very important is consuming lots of photographic content and then following other photographers that you're inspired by. For the longest time, if I see a photographer's style on Instagram that I really like, one thing that I always did was try to replicate that style. If I saw a photographer take a picture of a certain aesthetic, maybe they took pictures of a flower and they framed it to look interesting, I would go outside and take a picture of a flower and frame it to look interesting. Now, I'm not saying you should go ahead and start copying every single photographer's work. I was a beginner. This was my way of practicing and getting better at it. Being inspired by other photographers, looking at their style, learning from it, and then twisting that and creating your own style out of it. I feel like it's like a very huge thing for you as a photographer. Like my work currently is kind of like a result of photographs that I've seen in the past few years and I've been inspired by. This is basically me saying you are what you consume. And a very good example right here is that if you're watching my videos, if you're learning from the edits that I've been making so far, if I've been taking a thing or two from videos that I've uploaded recently, if you're learning from these videos, this is definitely going to help you moving forward because you're able to apply these things throughout your entire process where need be. And if you don't just learn from me, you learn from other photographers, video editors, photo editors, or whatever you do online. You are able to combine all of this knowledge together and apply them in your work. And it's actually very interesting how the mind works sometimes, where if you learn something from different sources, you're able to put this together and find a creative way to put your own spin around it and make something very unique. Consuming so much content is what I do to this day. Becoming a better YouTuber, I consume a whole lot of YouTube content. Consume a whole lot of content about personal branding, about YouTube growth, about things like thumbnail, talking about audience retention, a lot of the technical parts of YouTube. I consume content that has to do with that because I know that I want to become a better YouTuber. So that's the same thing with anything that you're trying to pursue. If you're a photographer, consuming lots of content related to photography can help you become a better photographer. And the way algorithm works these days, even if it's on TikTok, if it's on Instagram, if it's on YouTube, if you're consuming loads of this content, the algorithm is more likely to recommend more videos like this for you to consume. This is a good thing because you get to learn more. And I'm 100% sure that if you talk to any photographer right now that's been at their craft for like decades or something, they're definitely still trying to learn something new till this day. Even if it's not just becoming a better photographer, becoming like a better businessman while at it. Knowing how to talk to clients as well, dealing with clients' relationship, knowing how to deliver your photos and serve clients better. Becoming a better photographer doesn't just involve you taking pictures. It doesn't just involve you editing photos. It also involves a process that has to do with communicating with clients, relationship with clients, and how you present yourself as a professional. The fourth tip that I'm going to give you guys is kind of linked to the previous tip, is always be willing to learn something new. So from different sources or other photographers that you know. Now, photographer friends that might be more familiar with the more technical parts of photography, like models of camera, models of lenses, the type of lights to use, of camera flashes, that might be their strengths. For me personally, I know that my strengths might be things like angles, taking photos, the editing part of things, color grading, retouching, and then there might be another photographer that might be an even better retoucher than me. What I'm trying to get out of this is always be willing to learn something new. So even if it's from your photographer friends, the ones that are good at retouching, you can hang out with them more if you want to get better retouching. Ask them questions about what they are doing. If you know a photographer that knows more about color grading, then you might as well talk more with this photographer, ask them questions and find out their process. So this all comes down to always be willing to learn something new. That willingness to learn something new every time. It also reflects in like trying a camera setting that you never tried and seeing what comes out of that. That curiosity could really help you create happy accidents. And that happy accident can really connect to the story of the picture that we're trying to take. The fifth and final tip is choosing a niche, developing a style, and sticking to it. These were the phases I went through as a beginner photographer. I didn't have a niche or anything. I didn't know the type of photos I wanted to take. I grew up taking lots of nature pictures. So pictures of like random things like flowers, butterflies, just random things on the street. I had a very brief phase where I was trying to take street photographs. I was very interested in street photography. Shout out Joe Greer and Elvis from Hell. I used to be so interested in street photography and I still find it interesting till now. But over time, I was able to find out that what I really liked was portrait photography. So if anyone wants to take portraits, they always know to go to me because that is the niche that built over the past few years. Even if it's fashion, architecture, whatsoever. It helps you to streamline what you would get better at. I mean, you could be a good street photographer. You could also be a good portrait photographer. That works. But being very, very good at one thing, apart from the fact that focusing on one style of photography can help you get better at it, it can also help in the client market. When people want a portrait photographer, they always know to come to you because you're the person that has developed their style in portrait photography over years or months. And that's why I feel like it's extremely important for you to develop a style, a niche, and stick to it. You can let me know if this video was helpful in the comment below. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.